Hi, welcome back. And for those of you new here, welcome to UCLA InterAxon's Neuroscience for Kids. Today, we will be learning about the 5 senses, which are sight, touch, taste, smell, and hearing. Your senses pick up signals from the world and send them to your brain. Your brain can then tell you what to do in different situations. So, take a seat, prepare your senses, and let your lobes process what you're about to see. We'll start off with sight. How do we see things? First, light bounces off an object and enters your eye. This light passes through the pupil, the little dark hole in your eye, to reach the retina at the back. The retina is a layer of thin tissue that turns the light into a message your brain can understand. It has 2 kinds of photoreceptors, or cells that respond to light. These are the rods and cones. Rods help you see in low light conditions, like at nighttime, and cones help you with color vision, like during the day. There are 3 types of cones: red, green, and blue, and they work together to let you see all the colors of the rainbow. So, how does visual information reach your brain? The retina connects to the optic nerve, which sends the message all the way to the back of your brain, to the visual cortex of your occipital lobe. So, the retina is like a translator, and the optic nerve is a messenger.
Now we can move on to our sense of touch. Our skin is the largest organ, covering the entire body. It has many receptors that respond to different information from the environment. These cells can help you detect temperature, pressure, and pain. Let's look at 2 main layers of our skin, the epidermis and the dermis. The epidermis is the skin we can see, and the dermis is right beneath it. The dermis is home to many nerve endings that send signals up to the brain's somatosensory cortex, located on the parietal lobe. Do you remember the lobes? If not, be sure to check out our video on the lobes. The somatosensory cortex gets signals from all parts of the body. Some organs have more sensory receptors than others and send many more signals to the parietal lobe. For example, our hands have more sensory receptors than our backs. This makes sense because we use our hands to touch things and not our backs. The difference in receptor number means that some body parts, like our hands, take up a bigger part of the brain for processing. In order to see how different body part signals get processed in the brain, we can use a homunculus. A homunculus is a model of the human body where the size of a body part tells us if it has a lot of receptors. For example, our friend homunculus here has huge hands, but pretty small arms and legs. This makes sense because we don't use our arms or legs to pet dogs or cats.
The next sense we have is taste. We can taste after tiny chemicals called tastins bind to receptors on the tongue called taste buds. We have around 10,000 taste buds which get replaced about every 2 weeks. These receptors help us enjoy the 5 different tastes which are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. After a tastin binds to its receptor, that information travels up to the gustatory cortex of the insula lobe. Gustatory comes from the Latin word gustatus, which means taste. The insular lobe is kind of hidden and can only really be seen when you pull some lobes apart. Next up is smell, or olfaction. To smell this pretty flower, something called an odorant molecule binds to special receptors in our nose. These receptors talk to olfactory bulbs which connect to your hippocampus and primary olfactory cortex. Do you remember what the hippocampus is for? It helps you make and store memories. Are you surprised that smell signals reach your hippocampus? It explains why some smells can make you remember something, like a trip to the beach or the school book fair. And finally, we have our sense of hearing. In order to hear your favorite song, a sound wave enters our outer ear and travels deep in the ear, up to the brain. First, the sound wave hits your eardrum, which talks to your middle ear. The middle ear has 3 little bones called the malleus, stapes, and incus, which then tell your cochlea about the sound wave. The cochlea looks like a snail shell, and it's filled with tiny hairs and fluid. When the middle ear bones vibrate our cochlea, the fluid moves the hairs which tell auditory nerves to send a signal to the brain. The part of the brain that gets this information is the auditory cortex of the temporal lobe.
Now that we've covered the 5 senses, why don't we review some of the things we've learned? So, which part of your eye has the rods and cones? Your retina or the optic nerve? That's right, the retina. And which layer of your skin has nerve endings? The dermis or epidermis? Of course, it's the dermis. All right, what are the 5 different tastes? If you said sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, you would be totally right. Which part of the brain gets information from your eyes? The occipital lobe is correct, but if you said visual cortex, you get an A++. Which sense sends information up to the hidden insular lobe? Taste is correct. And finally, can you name the 3 bones of the middle ear? They are the malleus, stapes, and incus. All right, congratulations on acing this quiz. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you in the next one.